falsely, wrongly convicted they said it was a crime, but it wasn't no crime and stuff because I had a sick little girl, you know.
Why should people believe that you didn't kill your daughter?
Because I didn't, you know. We can't make a person believers, you know, and stuff, you know. But I carried her to the hospital and stuff, you know. I didn't have nothing to hide.
Why do you think you were convicted?
Just because I couldn't explain what happened to her. They said, you're guilty, and the way I was acting funny because of my autism. I didn't even know I had autism until I was here.
The night that little Nikki died,
yes, sir.
What happened that night? It was just the two of you?
Yeah, just the two of us. About 5 o'clock the next morning, I heard a funny sound, you know. It was a funny sound. And checking on her, she had a little blood right down on part of her lips, so I wiped it off, washcloth. And then stayed up a little while with her. I stayed up a little with her. So we laid back down. She seemed like she was okay at the time, right? And if she wouldn't have been, I would have got her to the hospital then, you know what I'm saying? She seemed like she was all right. And then about 9 o'clock, the alarm went off, and when I got up, she wasn't breathing. Her lips was blue, you know, and it scared the poo-poo out of me, you know what I'm saying? So I got Nikki dressed, you know. So I didn't dial 911, I rushed her to the hospital.
But what kind of condition was she in at that moment?
She wasn't breathing. Her heart was beating, but she wasn't breathing.
But you didn't violently shake
no, sir.
Your daughter that
Never
night?
did yell at her, never did violently shake her. All those I was accused of, I never did.
It took a while for you to take Nikki to the hospital, to call for help. It begs the question, you know, that seems like a really urgent situation and something
yes,
that
sir,
you need
yes,
to get to
yes, sir.
quickly.
If you got up and you seen your daughter or your son like get there, would you kind of be in shock or something, or be certain emotional state or something, you know? And you see them in that type of way, you know what I'm saying?
Got it.
Not breathing, her lips turning blue, you know? And be in shock or something, not thinking right and stuff, you know?
So you're saying you panicked?
Probably not. I probably should have rushed quicker, you know? But I don't think that probably would have helped her.
Did you love your daughter?
Yes, sir, I loved her. And right now, you said, was I prepared? I might not have been prepared like I should have been, you know?
Right.
But yes, I did love her.
That death will follow me for the rest of my life.
Brian Warden was the lead detective who helped convict Roberson. He's a pastor now, a preacher filled with guilt.
I've become convinced that Robert is an innocent man. There is no amount of theological gymnastics you can do to make this okay.
In Palestine, Texas, Tuesday morning, attorneys tried to get the case halted on procedural grounds. A judge said no. It will take a recommendation by the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles and a decision by Governor Abbott to stop the execution now. Republican Jeff Leach is one of 86 state reps who signed a letter to the board and to the governor asking for clemency.
I've been doing this long enough to know when the system fails someone, and I believe strongly that the system has failed Mr. Roberson in this case.
Leach will lead a hearing in Austin Wednesday morning, but all the House Criminal Jurisprudence Committee can do is continue to ask for a pause.
So yes, I was involved in the initial investigation of Robert Roberson's case. We did very quickly focus on him, and everything seemed to agree with our focus, to include that which was coming from the hospitals and from the medical professionals that followed us. We were somewhat dependent upon what they told us, and what they told us was shaken baby and there's your man. And so that's the direction everything went, to the exclusion of all other possibilities, really. And so he went to trial on our case. I was very unhappy with the course of the trial in those days. I didn't give voice to it. I was just alone in my thoughts. I thought, you know, there were some issues there with a vigorous defense, no testing of his mental acuity, and then the introduction of a sexual assault claim that was never, ever corroborated by any form of evidence. So when Gretchen showed up at my house years later and asked me if I would have a conversation with her, I invited her in and told her, I've kind of been expecting you, someone, to show up, because I knew the appeals were still ongoing. Let me just say, since that time to this day, I've become convinced that Robert is an innocent man. The foundations of our case were in shaken baby syndrome, and that is gone. Okay, that's not science. That was an idea that became science because enough people said it enough times. We know how that works in our culture these days. It just isn't it. I've had the pleasure of spending some time with Robert. I'm in a church that's fairly close to him, so I get to go visit him. Let me just say, Robert is an innocent man. But more than that, he's a kind man. He is a gentle man. He is a gracious man. I was talking to the legislators earlier, and they talked about their visit with him, and how strange it was when they got to the end of that. Robert prayed for them. They didn't pray for Robert. And that's been my experience every time I visit him. Robert, his personality, his joy, his hope, that's what comes out. He prays for me every time I'm there. He's a special man, and I'm ashamed that I missed that 20 years ago. We were looking for an offender. We labeled him as such, and we made it stick. All based on junk science. And I can tell you today, he is not an offender. He is completely innocent. And we owe it to him, all of us, not just the witnesses. All of us as citizens of the state of Texas have work to do to right this. These kind of things happen. Innocent people spend time in prison. Innocent people are put to death because the citizenry has gone on about their lives. Because we quit caring. And we quit paying attention. So please, pay attention. Innocent people are in prison, and an innocent man is scheduled to die Thursday. So, anyway, that's me.
What has it been like for you to watch this play out in your own community?
My community is very supportive. I've stood before my congregation and told them what I did and what I am doing. A large number of them were here with me this morning. They've been very supportive, and they see what I see. Okay. Most of them I've sent them all. I said, look, don't believe me. Go to the Innocence Project page, read for yourself, read the filings, read everything you can find it yourself. And they all come back to me and say, okay, we're with you on this. They've signed the petitions, and they're on their way to, some of them I think are going to Austin as well. But so.
It's my understanding that in one of those visits to Mr. Roberson, he actually said that he forgives you for what happened.
Yes.
Can you explain that moment and just kind of walk us through the emotions?
I wish I could. That was the first time we'd met since the trial, and so I was there, but I wasn't there. Kind of, yeah. We had a conversation, and I apologized to him for my role in his being put there and my role in not being able to get him freed from there. And he spoke words of forgiveness to me, which were deeply meaningful to me in the moment. But if the state proceeds, whatever Robert gave me, the state will take away from me, because that death will follow me for the rest of my life.
How long have you been involved in the appeals process, and what was your reaction to specifically today?
I think Gretchen found me in 2016, so
2018,
somewhere in there. So I've been, wherever she found me, I've been involved ever since. Like Gretchen, I am saddened by what we saw today, and what's been going on up until this point. We have a system that's in place that should catch this stuff and fix it, particularly with the junk science law. But like all human systems, we go into this self-protection mode, and we find ways not to do the right thing if it's going to hurt our reputation, maybe.
Tears and emotion overwhelmed Robert Roberson's lawyer as she left a courtroom in Palestine, Texas.
I'm not giving up. That's the message.
As the latest legal attempt to spare his life failed again.
I'm enraged. I'm heartbroken, but we are not giving up this fight.
In 2003, Robert Roberson was sentenced to die for abusing and killing his daughter, Nikki. At trial, medical experts testified Nikki suffered multiple head traumas and brain bleeding indicative of shaken baby syndrome. Roberson's legal team, which includes the Innocence Project, says the 2-year-old had a history of medical issues and that she died of double pneumonia that progressed to sepsis, which can mimic symptoms of abusive head trauma. They also said she had fallen off the bed that night. But some have called Roberson's new medical claims preposterous.
Even if the child did have pneumonia, there was no way any of those were consistent with the multiple trauma impact areas to the head.
The doubt over Roberson's case has intensified. In a highly unusual letter, a bipartisan group of 86 Texas lawmakers are fighting to stop Roberson's execution.
I believe strongly that the system has failed Mr. Roberson in this case, and it's our obligation and our duty to speak up and to step up.
Some lawmakers prayed with Roberson inside prison this month.
Your execution date is approaching. How do you cope with that?
You try to keep hope alive each and every day, you know.
CNN spoke with Roberson inside the death row prison unit.
Why should people believe that you didn't kill your daughter?
Because I didn't, you know. Just like you or me, we can't make a person believers, and stuff, But I carried her to the hospital and stuff, I didn't have nothing to hide.
But you didn't violently shake
No, sir.
your daughter that
night? Never did yell at her, never did violently shake her. All those I was accused of, I never did.
Why do you think you were convicted?
Because I couldn't explain what happened to her. They said, you're guilty, and the way I was acting funny because of my autism. I didn't even know I had autism until I was here.
Brian Wharton is the former police detective who helped convict Roberson. He says he's ashamed and now believes Roberson is innocent. This week, Roberson asked Wharton to be with his family and friends in the execution chamber if that moment comes.
So when you got the call that Robert has put you on the witness list, I mean, I can't imagine getting that call.
Well, I don't want to be there. I don't want to watch it happen. But it's a moment that I owe him. If he's asked me to be there, I owe him that much. And so I'll be there.
They're about to execute an innocent man.
Barry Scheck is co-founder and special counsel of the Innocence Project, an organization known for helping to exonerate wrongfully convicted individuals. He's joining the chorus of support for Texas death row inmate Robert Roberson, convicted and sentenced to death for fatally shaking his 2-year-old daughter Nikki in 2002. Roberson's attorneys and many of his supporters, including several dozen bipartisan state lawmakers, say that diagnosis was wrong, and new evidence could prove that Nikki died of double pneumonia, which led to sepsis. At the time, she was being treated with 2 medications, now considered inappropriate for a child in Nikki's condition.
It's plain that the district attorney who asked for this execution date didn't know the record in the case, did not look at the scientific evidence as to the pneumonia diagnosis and the misapplication of drugs that was used in this case.
Roberson's defense team also argues that their client's undiagnosed autism contributed to a jury finding him guilty.
They said, you're guilty, and the way I was acting funny because of my autism. I didn't even know I had autism until I was here.
On Wednesday, a Texas House committee subpoenaed Roberson to testify as they reconsider his case. That hearing is set for October 21st. But so far, the Texas governor has not stepped in to delay tonight's execution to let that happen.
There's so much ignorance here and so much misinterpretation of basic scientific facts.
Roberson's execution is set for sometime after 6 p.m. Central Time in Huntsville.
Tonight, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals overturning the temporary restraining order that had been issued by a Travis County judge earlier, just 90 minutes before Roberson was scheduled to be put to death. That restraining order essentially pausing the execution. With it now reversed, a group of Texas lawmakers currently making their final move, asking the state's Supreme Court to weigh in. The state's high court rules on civil matters, not criminal ones, so it's unclear how this appeal will impact the execution apart from delaying it. Today, we spoke to one of the state representatives fighting to stop this.
I am concerned for him, I'm concerned for his family, and I'm also concerned for the precedent that if we execute another innocent man today, what that means for our justice system, and do we even have true justice in this state?
Good evening, y'all. I'm Amanda Hernandez. I'm the Director of Communications with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. I'm here today to tell y'all that Mr. Roberson did receive a stay. I had the opportunity to go back there to speak with him, and he was shocked, to say the least. He praised God and he thanked his supporters. And that's pretty much what we have to say at this time. He'll go back to the Polensky unit, and then we'll proceed from there. We do have a few representatives who would like to say a few words, Representatives Busey and Hull. But before we do that, are there any few questions that I could answer for y'all?
Amanda, do you know that if this were to get sent back to the judge in Palestine, could they reschedule another execution date? And is there a certain amount of time that has to wait before that date can be scheduled?
I don't know that right now. We'll have to look at everything and work with the courts and the Attorney General's office to figure out what it all means.
So what happens next?
What happens next is that he will be transported back to the Polensky unit, and we will continue to just work through the courts.
Will he be transferred to Austin for this hearing on Monday, or how will that go?
We'll work with the Attorney Generals and look at everything and then go from there.
So essentially at this point there's nothing unscheduled as far as an execution date or anything. He's just going to be back in the... Okay.
That is correct, yes. So he'll just return back to the Polensky unit.
What was his reaction when you heard that you talked to him?
Yeah, so he was shocked. He thanked his supporters. He praised God. He claimed his innocence.
And so just to reiterate for all of our viewers, this is not final, this still has to go, it could still move through the court system. Can you explain that?
For tonight, this is what is happening. So he did receive the stay for tonight. What happens after that, we'll have to see.
So he will be at the hearing on Monday then?
I cannot speak to that. I am not sure.
Okay. Was he by himself when you told him?
Re-ask your question a different way?
Did he have any family or anyone with him?
No, he did not have anyone like that with him. Yes, he's been in the cell, yes.
Has he been alone this whole time while everything has been fluctuating?
He would have had the opportunity to visit with his spiritual advisor or attorney if he wished earlier this afternoon, and he would have had the opportunity to make phone calls earlier this afternoon, but I'm not sure what all he elected to do at that time.
So from 6 until when you told him, he was completely unaware of what was unfolding?
I wouldn't know that for sure. All right.
Was he alone today? Did he have any family here?
He did have witnesses scheduled to attend, but he wouldn't have seen them. All right.
Was he far enough along in the procedure? Was he in the death chamber at that point?
No.
Have you ever had a stay issued this late?
I'm fairly new to this role, so I couldn't answer that.
Did you tell him, or did he already know that it was stopped?
We told him, the officials told him together at the same time, so I was back there whenever he was told. Thank you.
So we have two House members here, Representative Busey as well as Representative Hull. And now allow them to speak.
I'm Lacey Holt, State Representative from Houston, and I just want to say praise God. I am proud to be a member of the Texas House. I am so grateful for all of my House colleagues who have worked to help Robert, for the House Criminal Jurisprudence Committee, for Chairman Moody, for Chairman Leach, and so thankful and appreciative of the Supreme Court. And I look forward to welcoming Robert to his Texas House, to his Texas Capitol on Monday.
Everyone, I'm State Representative John Busey from Williamson County. I join with Representative Hull in being thankful that this day was put in today. We are so thankful for the work of the Texas House. For 22 years, this man has been held in prison on death row, and we're hoping that finally, with this ruling today, with the state and the Supreme Court's decision, that the Texas House will be able to help bring to light the truths in this case. We believe this to be an innocent man where the facts have not come out, and we're hoping this hearing will give that opportunity for the people of Texas to finally hear the facts here. Again, I want to praise the work of the Texas House. Over 80 members, bipartisan coalition from across the spectrum, have worked hard to make sure that this execution did not move forward today, because we want to make sure justice is served. And it's been a strong effort, bipartisan effort. And we're also just so thankful for Robert tonight. As you have been told, he is a man of faith. We both have had the opportunity with some of our colleagues to meet with him, as we did just over 2 weeks ago. As a man of faith, he is so thankful to God for this decision. He's thankful to his supporters that are out there. He's thankful to the Texas House, his lawyer, and everyone else. And he was just joyful tonight. As y'all have heard, that's what we were reported as well. And he knows this isn't over. He wants the truth to come to light, and the Texas House is working to do that, and we hope that the courts and others will follow suit.
Well, given all the appeals and the evidentiary hearing in 2021, what impact are you hoping you could have on his case at this point? Because it seems like he's out of appeals at this point.
Look, while he is still breathing, there is still time to bring the truth to light. And we, the Texas House in 2013, and then again in 2015, strengthened the junk science law, referred to as the junk science law. We feel there is fear that it has not been utilized properly in this case and other cases. That is part of what the hearing on Monday is hoping to hear, and we needed Robert to be there as a firsthand account to be able to testify to how it's been used in his case, and it's bigger than him. It's about, is this law that the Texas House, the Texas legislature, then signed in 2015 by Governor Abbott, has put into place, is it being implemented properly?
But what actions can the legislature take to directly impact his case at this point?
Well, right now we can help continue to bring awareness to his case, hopefully bring the truth to light, and there are still many people that have the ability to take action in this case, from the governor to the courts to the parole board.
What was it like in there tonight?
Do you want to add to that? Look,
it was solemn and
The question is, what was it like in there tonight? We were in our own room with us and some of the members of TDCJ throughout the night. We were in regular contact with a lot of our colleagues that are working around the clock on this issue, and we were just full of hope. I mean, prayer going on here, prayer going on back home, and just holding out hope and faith that something would happen tonight. As you know, we believe, having looked at many hours of this evidence and heard many hours of testimony, that this is an innocent man, and that there's too much shadow of a doubt in this case, and that this should not move forward. So we were relieved, and we were holding out hope throughout the entire night that we were out in there today. I think the purpose of the committee hearing yesterday was to look if the junk science law is being effectively utilized by the courts, and if not, does it need to be changed in the upcoming session? So I think time will tell. I think Robert is one of the key people that can speak to how it has been utilized, and that's why it was so important to subpoena him to the upcoming hearing.
Especially as a man with autism, and his experience as a man with autism and going through the court process, even arriving at the hospital, how he was questioned, all of it. It matters when we were talking about this junk science statute and why he was not granted relief under it.
It has never happened before, a Texas death row inmate being subpoenaed to testify before state lawmakers in order to halt his execution.
If we had not issued that subpoena, he almost certainly would be dead right now.
Both Democrats and Republicans on the Texas House of Representatives Criminal Jurisprudence Committee voted unanimously to issue the subpoena after hearing from experts about his case. At issue is that Robert Roberson was convicted of killing his 2-year-old daughter in 2002 in what appeared to be shaken baby syndrome, which scientists and doctors have now dispelled as junk science.
No jury has ever heard the mountains of evidence that could prove his innocence. Never.
Hours before his scheduled execution Thursday night, the Texas Supreme Court also agreed to stop the execution, contradicting an order allowing the execution by the Court of Criminal Appeals. So now you have two Texas high courts at odds.
The Court of Criminal Appeals, which normally handles criminal cases, said last night that the execution could proceed, but yet the Texas Supreme Court that handles civil cases said that the execution should be halted.
In an extraordinary move, Texas prison guards are now planning to move Roberson from death row to the state capitol to testify on Monday. After he testifies Monday, experts say most likely prosecutors will try to get a new execution date.
That's probably going to be 90 days plus out.
In the meantime, Roberson's lawyers could petition the trial judge or the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals to consider new evidence.
You see them kind of pursuing two strategies. One is this should be dismissed outright. He is innocent. And the other is, well, if you can't abide by that, then at least give us a new trial.
All of this could take months, which some lawmakers say is needed to make sure a potentially innocent man is not executed.
Well, I don't know what to expect. I was actually hoping that the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals would have stayed it and reconsidered the case, but they didn't. This is extraordinary. We have this committee, jurisprudence committee of the Texas legislature that's bipartisan, and they have gone into this case. They held a hearing on Wednesday for all the world to see, and you can go online and look at it now. It should be taught in every law school across the country, in every legislative tutorial. They went into this case in extraordinary detail, really smart lawyers. They brought in experts. They brought in the district attorney, who to their consternation was not really aware of a lot of the evidence. And they really demonstrated that Robert Roberson is an innocent man. Of course, the shaken baby diagnosis is unreliable science, as they used it in his case. And ironically, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals last Friday decided a case called Rourke, which is now the leading case in the country, saying that many of the linchpins of the shaken baby diagnosis do not have an adequate scientific basis, and shouldn't be used in the way they were in Robert's case. But more importantly, in a way, they also focused on how the baby Nikki really died, which is that she had pneumonia, right? Number one. Number two, they gave her drugs, Finnergan and codeine, and that stopped her respiration. And number three, this idea that there were multiple impacts here as opposed to one short fall are provably wrong, with CT scans and an analysis of the medical records. And so there's proof of actual innocence that they brought out. And then they made this most amazing move, is that they went to the courts and they said, we want Robert to come testify here as a witness, and you can't execute him, otherwise he can't be a witness. And the Supreme Court of Texas said that the judge who issued an injunction to stop that execution did not abuse discretion, and we're in uncharted waters legally in Texas.